Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week is going to be the turn of the British singer and musician. It's the one and only Paul Da Vinci, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love and poetry. Best known as the lead singer on the 1974 hit recording by the Rubettes, Sugar Baby Love, and he also, I believe, did the B-side, as you'll find out in this interview, but then had a life in music and theatre, musical theatre, and has recently brought out an album and has got singles coming out very soon as well. I will put a link to his website in the notes below so you'll find out more about that. But anyway, this is the interview with Paul, so after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Paul, it's over to you.
I was about 9 years of age, and there was this music master in the school, and his name was Mr. Harwood. And I don't know, he obviously had a very strange music teacher or vocal teacher, because he used to sing like this. I was singing "Morning Is Broken." He used to go, "Morning has broken," and he thought this was how you sang. Anyway, he got me in the local church choir, and I went down there. He said, "You're going down there tonight." It was just down the road from where we live, and St. Sed's Church. So anyway, so I said, "All right, okay." I went down there, and after the choir practice, the boys threw me in a puddle. So I was covered from head to foot in water. So I said, "I'm not going back there." So he said, "You're going back, otherwise I'm going to give you the cane." So
right.
I went back. I was like half joking, but anyway, I went back, and so that was the beginning of it, church music, for a while, and then from the age of 14, I was in groups. I got my first recording contract when I was 17, and I had recording contracts from then and publishing contracts as a writer since then up to the days of success,
Blimey, so you were fast. So were your parents did you have any family members who were musical or?
My mum and dad, they liked ball and dancing. My mum was sort of fanatical about certain artists like Tony Bennett, and she played that around the house all the time. So obviously that went and Tom Jones and Frank Ifield she liked, and all these people, and she was a bit like me, very sort of compulsive about music, which I am still, I love it. So I suppose more than anything, it came from her. I heard my dad sing once.
Right.
And he got a really good voice, but he was a very unusual man. He was like quite a neurotic man, I think. And he wouldn't admit the fact that he could. And I said to him, was that you singing? I didn't get on great with him at all, But I said, "Are you singing?" And he went, oh, yeah. I think so. But it sounded, I thought, whoa, it sounds really good. I used to drive him mad because I'd be singing round the house in this sort of operatic soprano voice all day long. And I could imagine him freaking out.
Yes. So you were that kind of age then, sort of when you hit 15, 16, it would have been 66, 67. So you would have been quite conscious, a bit like what I was saying when I was 8, sort of getting into the top 40 and top of the pops and stuff like that, of that kind of the kind of rock pop kind of explosion from 63, 64. Did you sort of have a fascination with what was happening?
Beatles, The Who. I mean, I used to phone the local record shops and say, "Is the new Beatles record in?" And I'd drive them nuts because in those days you didn't have mobiles or anything like that.
No.
And they go, "Yeah, it's just arrived. Right, hold it for me. I'm down there in a minute." And I remember the first one I bought was Rubber Soul.
Right.
The amount that it cost me. I can still smell it. I can still smell that this record, Dave. This wonderful smell of vinyl, and I put it on and then Sergeant Pepper and all those things. The Who's. When I got my first record contract, a plugger gave me this record. I was into Jimi Hendrix and all that by then. He gave me a record by The Who. It was called Tommy.
Right.
And I said to him, my actual words were, "Well, is Townsend that good a guitarist now?" Because he wasn't, And he said, "Oh, you better believe it," And it was the first group I ever saw was The Who. I went with my girlfriend. I was 14, she was 18. Right, respect. Yes. Basil Locarno, and I remember remember she wanted to stand down the front next to the barrier, this little barrier, you know, and the atmosphere in there was terrifying. There was skinheads and mods, and they were all, you could feel there was going to be a huge, and with the Who's music, a huge fight. So I said, no, let's be in the balcony. And where we were, this guy was getting beaten up while they were doing a can't explain, you know. And I met Pete Townsend later on. I did 2 runs of Tommy in Hornchurch. I was the narrator, which was the second part to Tommy.
Yeah.
And I was in the West End at Shaftesbury Theatre with
yes.
Yeah.
So you met him. So when you got to 16, did you leave school at this age, or did you?
No, I left school. My dad made me leave school when I was 14 and a half.
Right. My God, that's quite an opposite to kids nowadays.
I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. But like I said, I didn't get on with him, and you know, so I mean that was.
So what did you do when you sort of 14 and a half? You know, kids look very young at 14, so you must have looked very fresh-faced and angelic.
He'd got a friend that suggested that I should go and be a gas fitter, right? So I went and did this gas fitting apprenticeship where I learned to play quite competent table tennis. Because what we used to do was at the where we were training, if you kept on the table and kept winning, you didn't have to go back in because they'd all keep guard for when the boss was walking round, seeing that you were doing so. So I learned to play table tennis, so I didn't have to do it. And I went from there one day. I'd had enough there. It was a lot of things happened, but this guy took me down a hole late at night. I'd been playing table tennis, funny enough. And
yes.
He said, "Come on, let's go." And he was the union boss, and he was a real bully of a guy. He said, "Come on, we're going." And I was one shot away, and I was having this really frantic going back off the table with this guy who was really good. And I just burst. And I said, "You wait till I've finished." And the whole place went like this, you know. And then he took me down this hole where we're in fitting a school, like a dugout in a school with pipes. And I remember I was trying to hold the wrench, and it was pouring with rain, and I couldn't hold it. So every time he pulled it the other way, I went that way. And we were going backwards and forwards. And he was going, hold it. Well, my dad, when I got home, went berserk, and I said, if you go down there and talk to them about this, I'll be finished there. So he went, I'm going down there, and he was stupid, you know. So anyway, he went down there and made a fool of himself. And the next day, all the union people said, well, they won't work with you now after what's happened. So I got my stuff, I got my money, and apparently somebody wrote to me years later, and I'm 14 and a half, right? I'm about 15 by now, you know, 15 and a half perhaps. And I went to the door and I said, right, I'm off to be a star. And I slammed the door,
yes,
down to Harry Fenton's. I took off all my overalls and stuff. I bought some really expensive clothes, went to British and Northern in London, and got a job in the accountant's office in London.
Right.
My dad, this guy who I didn't like, was on the docks being a tally clerk. I was suddenly working in the offices that were his bosses, which was fantastic, you know. But
yes,
I got the sack from that because I was out late with the group at night time, and I was drawing cartoons of the boss with a caftan on, with "All You Need Is Love" for Brynor, they were called, and a big spliff in his mouth. So then I went to college, and I went to technical college, and that's where it all started.
Right. So when you got to, like, there was 67, 68, this was kind of the summer of love and the height of that lovely counterculture, hippie culture. Did you also embrace that kind of world of, you know, the 14-hour Technicolor dream and going to the UFO club or tripping out to Pink Floyd and Jimi Hendrix?
No, I was still a bit young to actually go to those sort of, you know what I mean? They were a bit. There were stories about that, you know, about people with the drugs thing and what went on. So I didn't. The first group I was with were called the Sonics, and we only had one gig ever, right? So my cousin, I was a huge Jimi Hendrix fan. Jimi Hendrix was playing at the Civic Hall in Alsett. I think it's also Blackshots. That's where it was, yeah. And so he went there. I had to go to this gig, right? So afterwards, he came back, and I was absolutely incandescent. He said, I went backstage afterwards. He said, and Jimmy was sitting down with his guitar, with this white Stratocaster, which I've now got over here, one of these ones, And he said, and he's playing, and he said, "Hey man, do you want to play my guitar?" He said, and I played Jimmy's guitar. I was in tears nearly.
Yes, that was a moment, wasn't it? That was your, yes.
I was young to go, to do those clubs. No, I didn't do that. I did wear a bell round my neck once for one day. It's a bit embarrassing, but I loved all that period, and the Beatles. I mean, God, I was fanatical about it.
Yes. So when you got you were sort of probably in your late teens then by the 1970s. I mean, how did it feel when you sort of realised that so many people like Brian Jones and Hendrix and Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin all died, and there was the 60s came to a bit of and the Beatles broke up, and there was various assassinations and things that turned a bit sour. How did you sort of cope yourself, thinking, oh, perhaps pop music's all over, or did you not?
Me a little bit older than I was at that time, but I think I was about 16 around that. Anyway, whatever. To be honest, at that age, I think they seem like people from another planet. You know what I mean? That when you're 16 or that sort of age, those people are like they're not human. When I saw the Who, I always remember me and Pauline, this girl that I was with, we were up in the balcony, and Roger Daltrey walked in, swaggered in, and there were a gaggle of girls at this little tiny barrier about 6 foot high, and Daltrey walked through them without them realising who it was, and vaulted this little iron fence thing that was up there, and they went, "Ow, Roger!" When they came out. The first song they used to play in their set then was Heatwave. Do you remember the song?
Right. Yes, my God, they're fantastic. Yes.
At 90 miles an hour, so they were Leisure and the Who, and he went and Moon's drums went everywhere, and Townsend was. It was, but it was an epiphany moment. I thought, they've got 2 eyes, 2 hands, 2 feet. I want to do that. I think I might be able to do this, So
yes.
And I met him. Of course, I met him years later when I was at Hornchurch, particularly, and sat and drank with him and stuff,
Nice, very nice. So then the early 70s, did you say you went back to technical college by then? And
I went to technical college, and I met a guy named Colin Rickards who had got connections with. He was working for a company called Planetary Nom later on, and he introduced me. I made a record. The first record I made was with a group called 1984, and he'd written this song called "This Little Boy," and I recorded that. And Tony McCauley, who wrote "Build Me Up, Buttercup" and all those things with Mike Darbo and loads of hits, a wonderful songwriter. He heard them, and he thought, and I got flu at the time, funnily enough, when I was recording it. But he heard it and contacted me and said, "Do you want to come up and do some demos?" And that's where it started. And I did demos for the Hollies and Sorry Suzanne, Piggity Witch. I used to get that same old feeling. Tom Jones, Elvis, doing impressions of these people, well, sometimes, like when it was Tom Jones and stuff. Yeah. So that was how I started. And
right.
The record deal started,
Yes. So did you have a manager at that stage?
Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't have Philip Swern, who became they called him Phil the Collector. He died recently. He was my first record producer and stuff, and he sort of mentored me a bit and got me going and stuff, But really, it was through Tony McCauley, and obviously when Macaulay, after the first session, Macaulay said, "That's brilliant. I'm going to use you for all my sessions,"
Right. There you go. My God. So that was that sort of period, wasn't it? At that point. So then you mentioned you had the band the Sonics. Did you then have another band straight after that?
Yeah. Sonics was only for a very short period of time. I was then in a really good group called The Theory, that then became 1984. It sounds like Spinal Tap, doesn't it?
Yes.
with the new originals. Then The Theory. Then I joined a really good group called Playground. This is before the records, but I was now doing a lot of sessions, and I'd got a record deal. I got a deal, I think, with RCA Victor at that time, and I'd got 2 songwriters, Jeff Stevens and Eddie Seago, who'd had a lot of success. Jeff wrote The Crying Game and things like that, and Sister and Brother, and Eddie wrote Early in the Morning with Mike Leander. I was doing that. The Playground, it was weird with Playground because Kenny Gold, who I took over from as the singer, wrote You To Me Or Everything.
Yes.
The Real Thing. right? I came in and had my bits of hits. Adrian Baker then came in after me, who then joined the Beach Boys and did Gidea Park and that. So within that group, they had three singers that all went on to have some success. And Playground were a very good group, you know.
Yes, amazing. How did you manage to sort of cope with all these kind of changes and sort of deals and offers and working with different people? Was that quite straightforward, or?
What I used to do was, if there was an audition, I didn't even think about it, you know. I used to just say I could do it. So if they wanted a 4-season singer, I'd say, yeah, I'll come and I can do that. And I assumed that everybody could do it. And so I got lots of jobs like that, you know.
Yes, my God. And were your parents kind of pleased or proud of you at this stage, or were they a bit confused about your lifestyle?
Well, I bought my first record home, and my dad, who I said was a strange man, he said, "Oh, you've got your head in the clouds. You'll never do anything. That's not a hit." And that was it, you know.
Yes.
Even after the records, they never once said to me, "Well done." He was just resentful of it, you know. But,
yes, it's always. I guess it was a very strange time, and also, I guess the 70s. There was a lot of strikes, wasn't there? There was a lot of poverty as well, and governments changing constantly at that point.
he was doing okay, but I mean, you know, that's just how they were. It's sad, really, but.
And as that sort of that 70s period started to develop, I mean, we had, I suppose, heavy metal had started, prog rock had started. There was obviously in sort of Laurel Canyon, there was that sound that had started with, you know, the singer-songwriters, Joni Mitchell and Neil Young and Jackson Browne, then the Eagles. And then obviously kind of that Mickey Mouse kind of world of kind of glam. Did you sort of embrace that kind of, any of those scenes?
No, I've always been. The strange thing is that the sessions that I've done, it's weird when you're younger. It's a very strange thing. I remember doing a session for Gary Moore, the guitarist.
Yes.
He was an absolute genius, you know. And I walked in there, and now if I was going to go in and meet Gary Moore, I'd go, wow, God, it's such an honour to meet you. I really would, you know. But when you're young and you're a session singer, you go in and you know, it's a top level of professional things. You know, I used to do loads of sessions with Claire Torrey, who did Dark Side of the Moon, you know, that lovely voice in that.
Yes.
Oh, Tony Burrows. My first solo record I made, Sue and Sonny and Tony Burrows sang backing vocals for me.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and so at that age, I honestly can't believe it now. But I didn't give any. And I wasn't rude or anything like that, but I just went, I'm doing my job. Now I'd go in there because he was an absolute wonderful player, you know. His producer sat in the studio. We were doing, do you remember that, I Can't Wait Until Tomorrow, that record by him?
Yeah.
His producer was from LA, and the room was dark, and the producer had got really thick, black, dark glasses on. And he's sitting there going, yeah, man, no. It was an absolutely crazy situation.
But it's interesting because I remember doing an interview with Chris Spedding, who was one of those guitarists who appeared a lot. And I did say, did you ever, you appeared on a lot of classic records. Did they ever, you know, he was very like, well, you just turned up, you did it. And you never had a clue whether it was going to be a good hit. The songs you thought were going to be great weren't, and the ones that you thought this was a bit naff were then the big hits. So it was quite interesting. I guess you would have just been, you know, one of those people going in and out of studios.
Macaulay's things, I knew that same old feeling, that I knew they'd be. I mean, Sorry Suzanne, I came home from college and I'd just done all the voices on Sorry Suzanne on the demo. I can make it if you leave, you know, that thing. And I got in and my mum said, Paul, he said, you got a phone call this afternoon from Tony Kicks from the Jollies. So I said, you don't mean Tony Hicks from the Hollies, do you? Oh, yeah, that's it, Tony Hicks from the Hollies. Could you give me a ring on this number? Right, so I'd been reading, I'd got Melody Maker with me, with Graham Nash leaving the Hollies, Stop Press. So I phoned him up and he was all dead cool. He went, yeah, oh, hi, you know, Tony Macaulay. Tony said you sang all the voices on Sorry Suzanne. So I said, yeah. He said, well, we're doing it as the next single. He said, you know, she said, you probably heard that Graham's leaving. So I said, yeah. And he said, do you want to come up and try for the Hollies? You know, and anyway, I went up there and he met me at Fenchurch Street Station. and I'd got really a bad cold again. I'd got tonsil problems when I was younger, so I was getting a lot of cold stuff. And I went up there, and he said, "You're the best we've heard." And I was dead impressed by it. He'd got this beautiful model girlfriend named Jane Lum.
Right.
This fabulous little apartment, but with all wine on the walls, all wine, bottles of wine walls, and a sports car. We drove up to there, you know. And anyway, he phoned up Alan Clark and said, "Look, this is the best one we've heard." And Alan Clark said, "No, I've just interviewed my mate Terry, and Terry Sylvester's going to be joining us." So I wouldn't have been right for the job anyway, because it was a backing singer and playing guitar, and I wasn't playing guitar. I play now, okay, but I wouldn't have been able to play the Hollies things then, you know.
No. But it was. Did you work with or sort of record with Ringo as well at that period?
That's the Mouse. I didn't meet him. I didn't meet him. I just remember hearing on the where he'd been recording, him saying, "I'm not effing singing that," but it was about this little Liverpudlian mouse. And
right.
Lovely harmonies. This thing went, "Well, I'm Scouse, the mouse, shoo-be-doo-up, whoa," and it was all these lovely 5-part harmonies, you know. And I think Hugh Padgham, who produced Baker Street, was producing.
Oh, yes, Hugh. Yeah. God, he's got an amazing CV, hasn't he?
Well, yeah.
Yes, that was a golden time. And then you obviously had 73 was the big single, isn't it? So how did that session come about?
I'd been doing Barry Blues records. Do You Want to Dance? At the end of Do You Want to Dance, it's me and Adrian Baker, who's a friend of mine who's now in Texas, who joined the Beach Boys, singing "Hey everybody, do you want," and singing those high notes. Jerry Shurey, who was the arranger for them through Barry Blue, phoned me and said, "There's a couple of guys. This guy's had a bit of a hit in the States. He's the A&R, head of A&R in Polydor, and he'd like you to come and do some demos." So I did 2 lots of demos for them of about 5 songs. But during this time, I just signed a record deal with Penny Farthing Records.
Right.
I'd literally just signed the deal. So I went up there, and Wayne Bickerton said to me, he said, after the first session, this wasn't the Sugar Baby Love session, the first session, he said, "Look, we'd like to give you a deal. We're going to form this group. Do you want to front it?" So I said, "Well, I can't. I've just signed with Penny Farthing." When I did the second one, we did Sugar Baby. Now, I've got to tell you, because I listened to your interview with Alan Williams.
Oh, yes.
Let me tell you the truth about this. Alan Williams, and you can quote this, send it to him, Alan Williams did not sing or play a single note on Sugar Baby Love. I was there at the main session, I was there at the backing vocal session, and he was not there. And we went to court with him, actually, and Tony Waddington said the first time he met Alan Williams was on the second single. So John played on it. John Richardson was on it. He played drums and he sang backing vocals and did the "People Take My Advice."
Yes.
I wasn't there. The rest of the group weren't there. They just mimed to, and I sang the B-side as well. I sang the low vocal. I suggested singing that, because they'd written that high thing an octave lower and it wasn't working. So I went, no, do me, no. Right. And I said, "It's got to be an octave higher." And they laughed in Lansdowne Studios. And at 1:30 in the morning, we did it. And I hit those notes, and I had to double track each of those choruses all the way through the record, because you couldn't cut and paste then, you know. But Alan wasn't there. He didn't.
Yes.
The first thing I knew, I got a phone call from somebody. I won't say who it is. I think I know who it was. He said, "What's Top of the Pops tonight? You're on." So Jimmy Savile, I think, was on. He said, "Oh, and in at number so-and-so, it's the Rubettes with that." And Alan Williams is miming to my voice.
Right.
Which was heartbreaking, David. I mean, my daughter was, because we'd got rough mixes of the things, you know. My daughter was absolutely like in floods of tears. She said, like, "Daddy, that's your record," and all the bit. And so anyway, we sent solicitors round, lawyers round, and we settled out of court.
Right.
Settled out of court. So that was the thing. But, you know, like I said, Alan always says there were lots of people on the record and all the bit, that he was not there.
Yes, well, absolutely. Yes.
That's the truth.
Yeah. So that, I mean, with those kind of like experiences, I did an interview with poor old Tony Basil, who did Mickey, and you know, it was an interesting life because she was a dancer and had done stuff, but obviously did that single, but never got any money for it, and she obviously is still looking to somehow manage to make something. Did you ever sort of do okay from that song?
Oh, I got a royalty out of it, and we bought a house and stuff. So we were okay, but it was a career, David. That's a career record. I mean, George McRae, I don't think sold as many records as Sugar Baby Love. But I've continually had to explain to people, and obviously they find it hard to stomach the Jack Nicholson thing. You can't handle the truth. It's coming out more now than ironically 50 years on than ever before. But it's been difficult. It's been difficult, you know. But I did okay financially out of it. That would have really broken me if we hadn't. But they did very well out of it, you know. And the spin-off records and all the bit, but Sugar was by far and away the biggest record they had, and they weren't on it. Apart from, like I said, John Richardson played on it, Mick Clark didn't play on it, Bill Hurd didn't play on it, Tony, the pianist, and he was all right. I think he got out quite quickly because I think he was, I don't know, I felt that he was embarrassed. Tony Thorpe wasn't on it, you know, Bill Hurd wasn't on it. Unbelievable, you know.
So who were the musicians on that particular recording that we hear?
Do you know who they were? They were Barry Blue's backing band.
Blimey.
Jerry Shurey was organising the sessions. Jerry Shurey was doing it, and Barry Blue was producing those sessions. I did a couple of things with Barry. I did Do You Want to Dance? And if you listen to that, we're doing the vocals through it and the high stuff at the end, and School Love. I did.
Yeah, my God. So obviously you had no idea that was going to be the huge hit. But then you were with Penny Farthing Records. Then what happens next for 73, 74?
I'd already signed with them. And ironically, I'd got a rock record coming out with John Richardson on drums called Are You Ready? This is what I was into, like, and it went, like, you know, this real heavy rock thing. And but because people, I'll tell you why I did it, because people were saying, oh, you didn't sing that, otherwise you'd have been on top of the pops. So I thought, okay, so I will write. Eddie Seago came up with the title and co-wrote the lyrics with me, but I wrote all the music and I produced it. I wrote Your Baby Ain't Your Baby Anymore. And I thought, do a big fanfare at the beginning, right, and then hit a great big note. And then at the very end of it, just to really prove it, I'll sing it on its own. So it goes, your baby and your baby Annie, and the notes on its own. So just to prove it. And that sold 26,000 records. The BBC weren't happy that they'd been exposed. That sold 26,000 records and went down the charts from number 18.
Blimey. God, that's...
It was predicted to be like top 5 that week, but by somehow it went down the charts, you know, and it was a big hit in Europe, number 1, I think, in Holland and Belgium, top 10 in Germany, Italy, you know, yeah.
Yes. And then did you sort of, a bit mid-70s, did you then move from Penny Farthing then to Epic Records?
Yeah, well, that was about 79. The people that I was with, I mean, I had 2 lots of sort of litigations after that. I wanted to get out of the deal because they wouldn't put anything out. They were trying to sell me off to the highest bidder, and they were charging a lot for it. And so I couldn't record for about 4 years after that. But then I got a deal with Psalm. It was John Sinclair, who went on to produce Foreigner with Gary Lyons.
Yes. The
first Foreigner album. Yeah, and I got a deal with Epic Records. And I had 2 singles with them, which was, what was the first one? Every Single Word and When He Danced With Me. And that Every Single Word was a record, a Tony Blackburn record of the week, but they didn't happen, you know. So by then the board had gone, the thing had gone off the boil. So I'd got publishing deals all the time, and I was still doing lots of session work and stuff. So, you know, so it was okay for Jeff Wayne predominantly. You know, he did War of the Worlds.
Yes, God, well, War of the Worlds was such an epic record in everyone's collection, wasn't it, back then?
Oh, Jeff was great. I sang on Spartacus, the follow-up album for him, and I did British Airways campaigns for him, Smith's Crisps. Do you remember the little potatoes?
Yes.
I was the 3rd potato from the left. I did that in my act, you know, but yeah, and loads of things. And do you remember all those adverts where they said, tell Laura I love her on the British Telecom thing?
Oh, yes.
No, you tell her. Well, I did all those Bright Eyes and Rubber Ball and all those adverts. Yeah.
God, that's amazing. And then sort of as musical trends continue, what was it like you as an artist when you thought, blimey, the young people now into sort of punk and sort of, a totally different musical scene? Did that, having been in music sort of for a good 10 years virtually, did that sort of feel like a bit of a jolt to the system? Or
I've always loved anything that's got energy and is good. I mean, it was a move on from the Who, wasn't it, in a way, from the early Who and stuff. No, I loved it. I thought I thought it was interesting what they were doing in like saying. I mean, in a weird way, Wet Leg now. Do you know the group Wet Leg?
oh yes,
They're playing like 3 chord tricks and that, and I love them. I absolutely love them. Just bought their album. I'm their oldest fan. Seriously, 74. I said to my wife, I must be the oldest person in the country that's bought a Wet Leg album, but I love them. But I like that basic thing as well. That I think they're brilliant.
Yeah, well, when
Really, no, it didn't affect me at all.
Oh, cool. Because, I know I've spoke to a few people who were a little bit have been a bit sensitive about punk. I think they found it a bit sort of, I suppose it's like, if you can realise, well, this is what I think there's the 16 to 18-year-old period, and every 3 to 5 years, there's another kind of movement.
Right.
And you just have to you can't hold back, it's like trying to sort of stop the sea, isn't it, really? It's going to happen. It's a bit like when we used to go to Glastonbury Festival and people go, God, people are so young. It's like, no, we're just getting older. The 16 to 18-year-olds keep turning up because this is their kind of like moment to get out for the weekend, and they're kind of, this kind of great festival. And we're just getting older, but that age group doesn't, but they just look very young. So, yes, once you realise...
I put out this record. I did an album that I made in here called Green Eyed Soul.
Oh, yes.
And it got fabulous. Really, I don't know if you see my Facebook page, the reviews, there's a reviews page on it. They're absolutely amazing reviews. And I was really delighted, And the first 3 singles all went into the indie chart. And the highest one was a song called Coffee, which opens the album. And that went to number 5 in the Apple chart. Without You is now number 2 in the Apple chart. And I'm hoping this week it's going to number 1. But I couldn't believe it. I got a phone call last week from this guy named Freddie Cannon. If you Google him, there's pictures of him. He was friends with Stevie Wonder. He was involved with Michael Bolton, selling 40 million records. He's been a major player, major player. And his partner, I'll just look at here because I've got a memory like a Rose Drake. She's the wife of, or she was the wife because the man's died, but she was the wife of Pete Drake, who played on Elvis records and Royal Orbison records on steel guitar.
Okay.
So I got this phone call. It was a Zoom call on the Facebook thing, and he sent me this cryptic message saying, if you'd like to talk, we could do a message. So I looked him up and thought, wow, So from Nashville.
Yes.
Anyway, we did this call and he showed me his room. He said, look, and his room was like Elvis's living room. It was absolutely wall to wall with gold and platinum records. He was head of music in Italy for EMI. He was the head of the BMI. He's an amazing man, And he said, look, we absolutely love your single. We think it's brilliant and could be like a crossover into the proper big charts hit thing. He said, if you'd like us to help you, he said, we'd love to promote you. So that was the first call. So I went, well, lovely, thank you, And we had that call. And then I got another call from him. I know that I got a message about a week later saying, would you like to join our label? So yesterday we did the deal. And I'm now at 74. I've just got a record deal with Creative and Dreams Music Nashville.
Blimey. Yeah. That is really enjoyable. That is great news. And God, that certainly made the decade sort of bounce a bit higher, didn't it?
I mean, I don't feel 70. Well, I do sometimes, but I'm still really passionate about music. And he's heard some of the songs, and he said, he said, it's just brilliant. Me and Rose, he said, just think it's absolutely brilliant. And we still think that you could do something big. You know?
Right. My God, this is all very, very exciting. I mean, it's always nice. I mean, it's surprising how many people have started to get back and are sort of recording new material and sort of getting that, break with somebody saying, look, I've got this label. I'm really happy to put it out, and press up sort of 300 vinyl copies. And they think, oh, my God, vinyl. I've always wanted to put a record out again, And I think that's always the thing. That's a deal breaker, isn't it?
Check out Green Light. If you look on my Facebook page, there's some tracks from Green Light, bits of tracks from Green Light. Or if not, if you can, get the album, download the album. It's not really expensive, but it's had fabulous reviews. And I'm doing it's called Green Eyed Soul. And what it is, it's me, basically, it's like a little gag of like being jealous of the black soul singers and trying to sing like that, which I love, that falsetto thing.
Yes, well, absolutely.
I've done all the harmonies, everything. It's all done in here. And what I was delighted about was the first single from it, which is called "Give Me That Kind of Love," and it's a ballad thing. And they played a Bee Gees record before they played it, the first play, and I thought, oh, I bet it's going to sound terrible on the radio, And after this multi-million studio that the Bee Gees had been in, and it went wallop, and came out of the speakers like, whoa, and I was nearly in tears because it was such a wonderful moment, I've spent
fantastic.
learning to produce on Logic and that, and obviously from a very different time. But I'm writing all the time. I mean,
yes, well, that's amazing. So just, God, this is great news, isn't it? I mean, so well done, Freddie Cannon. That's what we say. And then sort of going to your 80s, because again, this is where you start to sort of come on the West End musical front, isn't it? Is this the sort of the beginning to another sort of chapter in your kind of musical career?
Well, it sort of was. I did 2 runs of Hot Tommy, and then I wrote a musical called Squeak. You're talking about the punk thing, right? With a guy named David Arnold, right? Not the Robbie Williams David Arnold. This guy's like a real high-level jingles writer. And he writes a lot of commercials for television. He's done really well and won awards and things for it. But I had this idea of doing the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and the first 10 minutes of the musical were baby rats being taught by the punk rats to smash up Hamelin. And it was all umpire music. We've got da 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 da. And then when the rats came out of the sewers, you suddenly heard something go, and he went, and the first song was called "I'm a Rat and I'm Proud." But anyway, and that got standing ovations. We did really well on that. I then was the narrator. Oh no, not the narrator. I was the Elvis part in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and so I did that in the Queen's Theatre in Swansea. And then what did I do? I did a couple, but then I got sent for an audition, and there was me and this guy, and a very, very, very fluid, shall we say, guy said, like, now look, boys, all we've got to do is we go 1, 2, 3, step or change. Well, I just couldn't. I just couldn't. It wasn't me. So I came out of that. I did some classical music. I wrote a classical piece for 16 string players, which were the CBSO string players, called Ice, and that was a 16-minute piece, and it was called the Hope Concerto, just for strings. And I wrote that on the computer because I don't write in the formal way. I can't pen it down, but I computer and printed the music out from that. And that went on at Wigmore Hall and the Purcell Rooms and the Barbican, and that got unbelievable reaction as well. That was recorded live. And the audience stomped for about 6 minutes after the piece.
God, that must have been so pleasing. And then you worked with, was it Trevor Payne with "That'll Be the Day"?
Yeah. That's a fabulous show. I did that for a couple of years. Yeah. That was great.
So, and is it quite different doing shows which you're going to be doing 6, 8 performances a week or even more?
Yeah, well, like that when I was doing Tommy and the other things, you're doing a matinee and you're doing. It was weird, but I mean, it was great. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. So it wasn't a strain. I mean, That'll Be the Day. but still, I mean, Trevor, I think he's going to retire, I think this year, you know, and Gary Anderson's doing very well now with his solo shows that he's going to be doing. And my friend Mark Street, who's the drummer of it, he's doing the McCartney thing. They've been doing a fabulous McCartney show, you know. So no, I don't know. I'm starting to feel my age a little bit now.
Well, these things do happen. Have you managed to sort of archive all your work, or at least sort of have it somehow documented on your website? You know, all the things that you've performed. Or
yes, there are. Yeah. On paulvinci.com, there's a lot of stuff on there. I've just got the records sitting over there, just all in their original things, just dumped in the side, and I've not got anything here. You know, really. There's no in the house what I do apart from the studio. You know. I've never been into the fame thing. I found that the brief time that I'd got that, I remember going to Belgium and I did a television show there, and I went to the loo, and I'm standing there like this. There's a bunch of kids at the door, all staring at the door at you going to the toilet. You know, so it got very strange very quickly. You know, and do you do a lot of work to keep your voice and vocals kind of in the condition they are? Yeah. I mean, when I'm gigging, it's in great nick, touch wood. You know, I mean, when I'm gigging, I get in the shower in the morning, I start doing gentle warm ups, and then I've got a Temptation CD.
Right.
I sit with that, and it goes from the low notes of "It was the 3rd of September" right through the high stuff. And when I can get the top notes of the Temptations, I know I'm warmed up. So I gently do that on the way to the gig for about an hour. And then with the band on the sound check, and then I don't warm up again until I go on. Then I don't touch it then until I go on. But it's in great nick. I mean, I don't know whether you've heard any of the footage of the band.
Yes, well, I was going through on your YouTube channel, watching your videos and also all those live shows. And actually, the live shows are amazing, sort of beautiful settings, aren't they? And sort of great audiences.
The band are phenomenal. I've got a pool of musicians that I use. Andy Frost is one of them, one of the main drummers. Paul Smith is a brilliant. I call him the Welsh Bonham. He's a local guy from Wales. He's one, and also Ian West, who's Cliff Richard's drummer, plays for me. Joe Longthorne's. Do you remember Joe Longthorne, the impressionist?
Yes.
He's Stretch, we call him, because he's about 6'7". He's one of my keyboard players. He was his musical director, played the Albert Hall and the Palladium and stuff. One of our guitarists, Lee Hodgson, fabulous guitarist. He was George McRae's guitarist, you know. So they're all top guys, you know. Every night, David, I mean, I swear to you, every night the audience reaction is crazy, you know.
Yes. And where do you pull the material from this amazing career that you've had?
Well, I only do Sugar Baby Love, to be honest, out of the thing. It's basically because Warner's are people that I'm giving them what they want. They want classics from the different times, you know. We do My Girl, do Forever in Blue Jeans, The Lion Sleeps Tonight I do, and lots of classic music from those. I do a funny Johnny Mathis thing that I made up, you know, where I say to the audience, you know, with respect, I always felt that Johnny Mathis had a very strange affectation when he sang, and I start singing Misty with moving my mouth like this, and I do a big Johnny Mathis thing just with guitar, you know. But the reactions are great. I mean, really wonderful, you know.
Yes, because I was listening to some of your kind of the solo stuff that you've got. I suppose this is on Spotify. Amazingly theatrical sort of material you've put together. Things like Animal and Man Part 1, Animal and Man Part 2. These are kind of amazing sort of productions.
Yeah, is that Jeff's thing? Is that Spartacus, Animal and Man?
Yes, so that's all from that period as well.
I also did an album with Jeff Stevens and Don Black called Dear Anyone. And I played the part of Danny in that. And they'd originally I did a song on there called What About Us? And they put Paul Jones of Manfred Mann on there originally, and they weren't happy with that. So, and this thing has not got a regular time thing. It's like a conducted orchestral thing, you know. So I could hear Paul Jones in the feedback in the foldback from the other recording very slightly in my cans. So I'm trying to sing against this thing while I was doing it, you know. But that was lovely. I mean, to sing that for Jeff and Don Black, you know, that was a real.
Well, yes, absolutely. So with the album that sort of came out quite recently, which is available from your website, when did you? This is Green Eyed Soul. This came out. Was that this year that came out?
Last year, I think it was. I think it was last year.
So was this a project that, or not project, but was this something that you had started working on before lockdown or during the lockdown period?
I wrote them all. Wrote one track, then wrote another track, then another track, and wrote the 10 tracks. I'm writing. I've got. If you could see my Logic page, you know, there are hundreds of songs on there.
Right.
Stop. You know, and
amazing. And then with the single that you've just coming out very soon, I mean, again, that's got a beautiful vibe to it. Are you quite a seasonal musician in terms of sort of, does your sort of music change depending on what time of the year that you've been creating something?
I don't think so. What happened was I recorded and mastered 2 songs. One was Without You, and the other one was called 70s Baby, which is which I love. It's like a hippie trippy song, and the chorus goes from this little sort of slightly Bowie-esque sort of guitar and voice thing to this. I'll send it to you actually. I'll send it to you in a minute. So this great big chorus of he's putting flowers in her hair, breathing in clouds of perfumed air because the old, you know, the marriage geraniums and that. I was going to put it out, and my wife said to me, you know, I think you'd be much better off putting out Without You because that's a summer record. And she was absolutely right, as always. And so that's why. But no, not really. I'm just writing all the time. I suppose you do subconsciously. Perhaps you write, you know, more introspective songs in the winter. I don't know.
Yes. Well, I suppose I sort of realised my listening habits change slightly as, you know, when spring comes and then summer and then autumn. There's a sort of a vibe that changes quite a bit, which was quite amazing. And with your kind of incredible back catalogue, is it the case that, you know, because there's always, the music industry is so weird, isn't it? You know, there's the publishing, there's the ownership of music. Is it something that you've kind of understood and have managed to sort of have what you want in your control now, or is it sort of a little bit ethereal?
Yeah, but I'm owed from Your Baby Ain't Your Baby Anymore, like over 40 years of royalties, which I can't afford to go to court and get. So yeah, so I mean, and the thing is, even with that 8-year period that I had litigation, I'd got lawyers involved, but you know, I mean, so it wasn't like I just went and signed anything. It was like, you know, it's a complex, and so many people that have only 1 or 2 hits, it's because they get involved in, you know, Tony McCauley said, where there's a hit, there's a writ. There's always,
right.
You know, I mean, so it's always very, look at, I mean, that record by, what was it, Blurred Lines. When you hear those 2 records, the one by Marvin Gaye and that, I can't get my head around how that's stolen off of that. The feel is somewhat like it, but because it was Marvin Gaye's family and Marvin Gaye is held in such high esteem, you know. I know a guy, actually, I won't say his name, who actually is one of those people that goes into a music, what do they call it, where they go into court and they decide whether something's stolen or not.
Yeah.
And I said to him, how do you decide, you know, whether something is actually stolen or not? And he said, whoever's paying me the most money. But that's the legal profession for you, you know.
Yes, it's tricky. I always really liked Elvis Costello's approach because someone suddenly heard this artist called, I think her name, Olivia Rodriguez, and they went, God, listen, you know, just like one of your songs. I think it's Pump It Up or something.
Yeah.
And he was brilliant. He said, well, actually, I kind of stole the riff from somebody else, so let's not worry about it.
The song was like, Freddy's in the basement, Freddy on the brain, and this one was like, pump it up. I love the song, but yeah, McCartney did the same when they did Waterfalls. You know, the group did, you know, he had a song called Out Waterfalls that went, don't go jumping waterfalls, that one, you know. And then that group had a had a record called Waterfalls. He said, and I heard it. He said, and I thought, wait, 1 minute, what are they doing? And he said, I thought, when I think of how much we nicked in the early days, then, you know, I mean, Lennon's one, here come old flat top, he come. Have you heard the Chuck Berry song?
Yes.
Oh, it's the same words. Here come old flat top, he come, grooving up slowly. I mean, you know, I mean, Lennon went, oh, it's a tribute to him. Because I said, yeah, but you're going to take the royalties, you know.
Yes, I know. So I don't know. I think it gets a bit too much sometimes. I'm glad there hasn't been in many of those cases lately. I think the last one was that one with Led Zeppelin and Stairway with Spirit and Randy California, which was like, well, you know, it's a tricky one, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Well,
You've got it.
We had an accountant years ago that worked for Trinifold with The Who. He actually said to me they were thinking of like suing people about their things. When they went into it, nearly all those songs had been very heavily influenced by the old blues guys, you know. So I mean,
Yes.
That's how it happens, isn't it?
It does, and people need to relax. So looking ahead for the rest of the year, do you have some live dates?
Yeah.
'Cause I noticed you've had quite a lot recently, haven't you?
Yeah, we're going to be doing on New Year's Eve. I think we're Linda.
Yes. She's gone, hasn't she?
Margaret. Anyway, New Year's Eve we're doing a show for Warner's. We're doing quite a few. I'm doing one next week at Sand Bay in Somerset next Saturday. But I've been concentrating a lot now at the moment on getting the music thing together. I'm going to put the albums now on vinyl now that I've got a record label. So that'll be nice. So if people want to download Without You, and I would appreciate it,
yes,
they can download it on my this here. It's on pauldavinci.com.
and it's all there. So you've got yes, I've got it there. So you've got one called .com as well as .net.
Yes, yeah. .com's the major one now, David. So if you look on there, that's
oh my God. I'm looking at the wrong website, aren't I? God, this is so professional. Let's have a look at your other website. So you've got loads of websites. Oh, I see. Oh, it all makes sense now. Shop. I can go to your shop. There you have it. It's very groovy.
Yes, I mean, I would appreciate it because people don't realise that we're not. Spotify pay you about 0.0 something of a penny.
Yes.
So you can't, and musicians need to earn a living like anybody does, you know. So just for somebody just doing that on my thing, it means I can make more music and stuff, you know. And it's nice to get a bit of reward. It's lovely getting all the plaudits from these people for the thing. You can see the reviews of the album on my thing there. I think it's pink.
Yes, I'm looking at it now. Yes, you've got it all here. God, this has been amazing. And I'm sort of pleased that you're still and going. So yes, you've got some live dates, more live recordings, and you've got a record label that is all there via Freddie Cannon.
I'm going to start now trying to get some shows together where I'm just doing my original stuff. Yeah, Freddie Cannon and Rose. I mean, Freddie's like a monster in the business, you know. He's a lovely guy. I've only spoken to him a couple of times. I feel like I've known him for years, you know.
Yes, and he goes back all the way, doesn't he, to every major artist from every major decade.
Yeah. He told me a wonderful story about Stevie Wonder. He said that he met Stevie Wonder when he was actually organising the artists for the American what's the Oscars, the equivalent American, the music awards thing, you know.
Yes.
The Grammys. Yeah, the Grammys. Yeah, he was organising that. And he met him there. And 10 years later, he met Stevie Wonder. And Stevie Wonder heard his voice, walked over to him, put his arms around him and said, "Hey, Freddie, we've lost a lot of people, haven't we?" He said, and he was in tears. He said, I couldn't believe that Stevie Wonder had remembered me and remembered my voice. But this man is moved in high-level circles, you know. He really has.
Yes, well, I'll have to have a look at his kind of
Oh, yeah.
website and his sort of record label. So does that mean you'll be licensed in Europe as well as America with these?
Worldwide, yeah. I may go over to Nashville. I've been. There's a couple of songs that I've been putting out, thinking of putting out as the next single. One's called "Get Even," which is like a Johnny Cash train type, that sort of feel to it, with me singing really low,
Yes.
like that. But the other one is a song called "Modern Girls," which is like a redneck take on modern womanhood, if you dare say that nowadays. And but you know, but so I heard that again this morning. I wrote that about a year ago, and I listened to it again. It's a bit like, do you remember the Avicii record?
Yes.
With the what are they called? The What's It Brothers, the Mumford and Sons. Yeah, with them. So it's a bit like that. It's the same feel as that. So it's a mixture of dance and like stomping country music. And I'll probably put that out actually as the next single, you know.
And how did you get on learning Logic? Did that sort of fit together quite nicely?
It's taken a long while. A guy named Ben, I can't remember his second name, but he taught me the first bits of it, and I'm forever grateful. But it's taken quite a few years to get to the point where I sort of knew enough to be able to put stuff. I was over the moon with it on the radio, you know. There's a guy of Steve Kitch mastering, who mastered the things for me. That was the only involvement of anybody else, was Steve Kitch mastering. But he's excellent. You know, at the final stage, you know, where you line it up so that it will play on any speaker and sound the same. You know.
The world of mastering is quite interesting, actually. What is it that makes it so different from, you've gone in the studio, you've recorded it, you've got it on the tapes, and then someone says, I've gone and got it mastered. What is that process?
They put it through a lot of compression and equalization, but expensive units, and they've got very good ears. So if something needs a little bit more bottom end on it, they get that frequency right, so that it pumps in the clubs and stuff like. It's the last little bit. If the mix is rubbish, you can't master it.
Right.
I mean, Without You sounds the same on my Logic page as it does on there, but on the radio, it pops. So, you know, that's the difference, really. But it's an essential part of the whole thing, you know. I mean, things are compressed on the radio, aren't they, anyway? So that helps a bit. But this is a real subtle, and when it's done properly, like Steve does it, it's great, you know.
Yeah, amazing. Well, look, Paul, thank you ever so much for your time. This has been amazing, and I do love hearing about those early years, the formative, because you know the difference between someone sort of slightly making a life in music. I mean, it's quite a fine thing, isn't it? A lot of people said, you know, it's kind of luck, it's timing, it's you know, it's hard.
It's a combination of, obviously you need elements of luck and everything. I think a lot of people that have made it very big have had much more of a killer instinct about things. You know, I won't mention any names, but there's a lady singer who's had a long career who's notorious for being like, you know, pretty cutthroat and stuff, you know. So I think you've got to be pretty hard-nosed, and you've got to get lucky. I mean, people like Cliff Richard got great management, and the managers were friends from an early time, you know. But lots of people have had horror stories with managements and people. I think Leonard Cohen, I'm not sure whether his accountant or somebody took all
yes, there you go.
money, the whole lot, you know.
I know yes, because then he had to go back and start playing again, didn't he? Because he realised that he'd had no cash left in his bank account.
He had a major accountant that took money from us.
No. And also that awful story, was it Badfinger who had signed to Apple?
Yeah.
And
I was talking to somebody about that the other day. I mean, apparently I thought, I was pleased because I thought surely, you know, Lennon McCartney them didn't do that, but apparently it was their manager that took all that money, and both of them committed suicide.
I know. I mean, it's you know, it's absolutely tragic to think.
Every time, I mean, if I'd seen these films of my voice being mimed to all over the world at that time, it would have broken me. It was only that I only saw Top of the Pops and a couple of things that I could live with it. But when I saw what was actually going on, it really was it hurt, and it still hurts if I see it. And some people on there, not many on social media, mostly they're really positive, but some go, "Oh, you didn't sing that, you're a liar." And little girls that were little groupies in the 70s who are now about 70, but have still got that mentality. No, Alan's lovely and all this, but it did hurt, and it still hurts. It really hurts.
Yes. Has all that business now been completely sorted and everyone's...
Well, sort of. There've been other cases. I won't go into it. There've been other cases with him, but I won't go into it. I sang the B-side as well, of the record. So that record was essentially a Paul da Vinci record.
Yes.
I sang both sides of it. I suggested singing that high and sang the B-side of the record, and the group weren't on it. So whose record was that? We retired. We would have retired at 22 when it I think it was 22 when it was out. We would have retired. We imagine 8 million records, even 30p. I got a substantial amount from it, but obviously it's not lasted forever. And you've got to live. We put our daughter through private school and stuff, and she's now an opera singer. And,
God, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and she's married.
So she inherited your voice.
She's a fantastic singer. She sang at the Albert Hall, and her husband, Richard Jenkinson, Dr. Richard Jenkinson now, he's just done the thing, he's an international cellist. Her grandson, Aaron Pruitt Jenkinson, because my real name's Pruitt, he was trained to be a solicitor. But last week he gave it up because he wants to do music now. He's got a degree and stuff, so he'll be okay. But he can sing Sugar Baby Love, and it sounds exactly like the record. He plays harmonica, he plays bass, he reads music, he can conduct. He's conducted orchestras and everything. He's brilliant. And our granddaughter is in London now. She got a scholarship to Central, and she's studying. She's just had her first play put on in London, and she's only 19, I think she is. Yeah.
Yes, amazing. When you were doing the Who musicals, what were the songs, or who was the character you played?
I did Christmas. I did Sparks. The thing, you talk about your woman. The what's it one? Eyesight for the Blind.
Yeah.
Loads. I can't remember all of them now, but I did. Tommy. There was 2 doors in the Queen's Theatre in Hornchurch, and girls used to hang about outside each door. And me and Alan had sort of got equal amounts, so it was like an equal thing in there that really put him out. Alan Love, who was Tommy in it, because he looked exactly like Roger Daltrey, But I was standing ovations every night.
Yes.
So there was a scaffold. Right, and I used to have to drop down on this poor little boy who was the young Tommy, who was sitting there like this, doing this, and I used to drop down on his head and go, "Now he is deaf, now he is dumb, now he is blind." And the little boy once went, "You're hurting me," because I was stuck into the part, the poor little boy. But...
Yes, that'll be. And there was a great film in the early 70s with David Essex, wasn't there? That'll Be the Day and Stardust.
For him, I did sessions for David Essex, sang on a song called Hot Legs from him.
Amazing. Because I've got a few of those artists, I won't say which ones, but sometimes there's little clips on YouTube and their voices are slightly gone, haven't they? They're not. There was one with Paul Young recently and people were going, "Well, I'm not sure about that, Paul," but you've managed to survive that, haven't you?
I think with Paul Young, he sang with such an unusual, it was a wonderful sound with that, "Come back and stay." It was like right in the back of his throat. And if you sing like that, you're going to probably... I've driven sound engineers mad with the sound, because they don't realise that unless they're really good sound engineers and really intelligent, which is anyway, that's another story. But they don't realise that you're singing on 2 little bits of skin. And if one of them said to me, "Give me a scream in the afternoon," and I said, "I can't do that. I've got to warm up tonight to that. If I do that, I won't be tired." But he didn't understand that you don't just go "ah" like that, because if you can do it, but if you do, you're gonna bug your throat. And the monitors, they don't realise how much you need. I've got my own monitor that I use on the gigs, and I can ride on it. I can whisper into it, and you can hear it. So you can get every subtlety that you're trying to get in every nuance of the performance, and you can whisper into it. And if you can just about be heard, you've got to holler like that right into the microphone, you know. And mic's an instrument as well. You go that far away, it gets toppier.
Yeah.
It gets really warm and intimate, you know. So that's what I've done. I've been really careful. There have been times when I've had nightmares with it, you know. You get a cold, you get flu, and you've got to, like when I was in That'll Be the Day, Gary would get the flu, and by the time the important gig came around, you'd have the flu and he'd be fine, you know.
God, that must be. I know, because Meatloaf had terrible problems trying to do the second album with Jim Steinman, and I think, you know, just realised it wasn't going to happen for about a year, I think. So, yeah, the instrument must be so carefully managed.
Daltrey now, I mean, they've been wonderful, but I do think it's sad seeing Roger Daltrey so old. You know, it makes me feel really like, you know, old.
Well, yes, but it's the kind of, sometimes it's the vocal, isn't it? But your vocals kind of survived and sounding very strong still.
Thank you. Yeah, Daltrey sounded pretty good still. Robert Plant, I mean, sort of the best rock singer in history, I think. Unbelievable, you know. And he's still singing really well, but he's singing a lot lower. And Tom Jones now apparently has been worried about, not because he's again a wonderful singer. I did. Do you remember the Matador song, "The Boy from Nowhere"?
Yes.
I sang all the things that Tom Jones would go on to record, all the parts of that, all the songs, apart from "The Boy from Nowhere," because they'd not written it. But I was going to be the front person for it. I was going to front it, and I was reading this book about Tom Jones, right? So he said, me and my son were sitting by our pool in LA. He said, we heard this voice on this record. I thought, like, wow. And he heard it and they went, I'm going to have that. So he sent his manager around, and of course, quite rightly, they wanted Tom Jones to do it. So he fronted it. But I did all the songs, I'll Dress You in Mourning, and all those songs on there that he sang, you know. They said to me, do you want one of the other parts? But I was so upset about not doing the main part. I said, no, if I can't do that part, you know, I don't want to do it. So,
God, your voice has led you so well, into so many places, hasn't it? It has just been incredible.
Star, Jeff Wayne, yeah, I mean, Justin Hayward, Forever Autumn, I did that on Top of the Pops with him. Elton John, guess that's why they call it the blues. I did Top of the Pops with him, singing backing vocals. Yeah, loads of stuff. Yeah.
And that, dear listener, is the end of the interview, or nearly. We just have a fond farewell. But yes, massive thank you to Paul for giving me the time for that. As I said, he's got lots of new material coming out, lots of projects as well. So do check out his website. This has been the C86 Show. If you want to contact me, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Do C86 Show David Eastaugh. All these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. Have a great week. Stay safe.